You're watching Real Simple News with your host, Cale McCullough. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, and today's top news story. U.S. intelligence and security officials accuse Russia of stoking racial and social differences. This article is from Reuters News. It says American intelligence and security officials on Tuesday will brief Congress about how Russia has been using social media to stoke racial and social differences ahead of this year's general election. Three sources familiar with the presentation said U.S. government experts will say in classified briefings to the full U.S. Senate and House representatives that Russian social media efforts are currently more directed at stirring up social divisiveness than promoting a particular U.S. presidential candidate, sources say. Well, we've been watching this stuff unfold in slow motion here for quite a long time. I deleted my Facebook a long time ago, some number of years at this point in time permanently, because of all of the anger that's on Facebook. And what has been going on is Facebook has been, there's a famous study about that Facebook did on people without their consent, feeding them content intended to manipulate their emotions, to make them happy and sad. It was in the news a lot, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Hasn't really been talked about too much since then. But what they've been doing is they've been programming people to maximize the amount of ads that you watch. And they use stimulus pairing. So they pair up stuff that emotionally charges you to positive social rewards and give you negative rewards if you do not comply with the social rules. And so it's not really actually too surprising here to know that Russia is behind this because, well, one, it seems to be that it's just the Democrats who are flipping out about race. It seems to be it's just their issue that they want to use because they're trying to get the black vote and the Latino vote. They don't really tell you this is exactly what they're doing. They're race pandering. And this makes me very, very glad that I joined the Walk Away campaign a long time ago. I realized one day that I had been a feminist my entire life. And one day I realized the one thing that most people know me for is I helped start that 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest back when I was a liberal. And we were raging pissed off about Donald Trump saying grab her by the pussy, when as it turns out, Donald Trump's a billionaire. And there are, in fact, women who actually come up to him and want him to grab them by the pussy. It is actually true because he is a billionaire. And he was actually just joking, but he was not. It's not. I mean, it wasn't hyperbolic. But these kind of things were used, like in this Portland anti-Trump protest. It started off as a bunch of college students outside of my dorm room yelling about how Donald Trump is a sexist pig, and me being one of the loudest ones that got people out to the streets. And then what had ended up happening was people were so pissed off. There was this dude on a motorcycle, and so people were pissed off that they were blocking traffic. This guy, he was a big dude, and he had gloves on with like plastic stuff over motorcycle gloves. He was riding a motorcycle, like burning wheelies, like being really loud and like doing donuts. And there's one dude, a couple of times, people were pissed off that they had to wait. This dude pulled these people out of their car and beat them up. Dude, he just like opened up the doors, wham, 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 wham! And these people, like, they were led by the Black Lives Matter people. And I remember the head guy, this guy named Greg, who is one of the head organizers of the Democrats here in Oregon, and he's got all this like really sketchy history, it's got some really sketchy stuff going on with his police history. I don't want to say, I don't know the exact specifics, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was, but I do remember it was something about kidnapping a minor. And this guy was like a professional protester, and he just he knew how to he was like trained up on how to do the Black Lives Matter protest. So where it was like started out as a protest about sexism, then all of a sudden turned out to be a Black Lives Matter protest, where in a state where there's like almost all white people except for the new 26% of the like Latino population that went from like almost nothing overnight to like almost like over a quarter of the state. But we don't see them. They're in their own isolated community. So what this is all this stuff came from Facebook. These people are all pissed off on Facebook because they see all these things. They're obsessed with fairness because they think that you're immoral if you don't want everything to be fair for everybody. Because to them, they rank morality of the moral classification, such as Steven Pinker. I talk about this on this show a lot because it's one of the most important things in our entire world. These 5 classification of universal morals here from Steven Pinker. We've got harm/self-protection, fairness/compassion, community/group loyalty, authority and purity/cleanliness. And so what these are this is what pisses people off. Like with cleanliness, like if you do something gross in the bathroom, you don't wash your hands and you like touch some food, right? People get pissed off. And the reason why they get pissed off is because it's immoral to do that because you can get other people sick. And so this cleanliness thing all goes into like in the Bible, they outlined pork. And some cultures value authority more, and they value fairness less. And like Muslims will like chop off your hand for stealing. That to us is outrageous. Most people around the world is completely outrageous. But to them, they value group loyalty and authority much higher, and self-protection much higher than fairness. And they value self-protection because they will themselves will actually be harmed if they don't comply with the radical Muslims. So what the liberals are doing is they're getting all pissed off because stuff isn't fair. And what they don't understand is like the government is a machine. It's like a business. Like you go to the store and like it's totally not fair, dude. Like I can't just go and like take stuff and put it in my pocket. Like this dude, like Fred Meyer or like Walmart family, like they're rich as piss, and I am totally poor. So I don't. This isn't fair to me, but it doesn't have to be fair, right? What matters is that the system is efficient. What matters more to me than getting free stuff is that the system is so efficient that I can get cheap stuff when I'm poor, right? Because this is much more useful to me than just getting upset about things. And this is what these liberals don't understand, is they're so upset that Donald Trump said, grab her by the pussy, because these people, these feminists, they get social credit basically for what are called luxury beliefs. Okay, and this is one of the best things in the entire world if you're conservative, because you could trash talk this one all day. It's like the butt of the joke is there's these liberals in the ivory tower, and they say these things. It's called virtue signaling, and they do it because they get followers on Twitter, and because the men around them, they are the white knights, and they back them up because to them it brings them up in social status. And the workplaces now have been taken over by these radicalized liberals in Silicon Valley. And so now it's like mainstream to them. And so they're on social media and they got this stuff in their face all the time. They're always pissed off about stuff not being fair. It's about they're going to take away your right to have an abortion, which isn't really a right. There's plenty of arguments to be made that our native birth rate is too low, and that if abortion was outlawed, that it wouldn't really be the worst thing in the world. I'm not saying that should be true. I personally think that it's more dangerous to have abortion be outlawed because women are going to be doing some backroom abortions. That's just dangerous. I'm pro-woman, so I'm completely against stuff that actually hurts women. But what the social media companies are doing is they are editing content. So this goes back into that publisher versus platform argument that I spoke about on the last Real Simple News argument, which is actually wonderful. I've actually been discussing this about people on Facebook, and I was blocked by someone on Twitter that I had good interactions with for trying to explain to him the difference in here between the publisher and platform. And so what's going on, because all people are saying that this whole thing about the Section 230, trying to revoke these tort protection immunities using 47 U.S. Code Section 230, is that the law was intended for because pornography is called an obscenity, and you're not allowed to transport it across state lines to minors. You can't give minors porn. And so web companies are supposed to have special permission to edit content in order to protect minors from obscenities and those things that are akin to obscenities. But the social media companies have been using it in order to edit the content using these hateful conduct rules, where they say that if you, and really what it is, it's not about any sort of like actual rules of what's right or wrong, because in reality, they hire armies of very biased people who work for low wages, who moderate this stuff and review it, and they're incredibly biased, and they're not going to do a good job. They're totally not actually they don't have the resource. They're paid to get you out of the door. They're not like a court, actually going to try to give you your due process rights. So what Facebook is supposed to be doing is they're supposed to be using this edit privilege. It protects them from tort lawsuits, because they're just like a newspaper. If you edit the content, you're responsible for libel and slander claims that are posted on your website because you edited it. You're a publisher. But they're saying the law says they're a platform, and they have to edit this content to protect minors from obscenities and those things akin to obscenities, which is legit, right? We need to do that. But the problem is the social media companies are then using this to boost their ad revenue and to control the media narrative, which is why the point of why I'm going in depth into this, because I did cover it last time. And Russia has been, of course, they've been exploiting this. I can explain to you very detailed how this works. And I don't know a whole lot of stuff about this. I just studied psychology back in community college, back before I became an engineer and a computer programmer. And now I'm knowledgeable in computer programming and the psychology, so I could tell you exactly how they're using these techniques. And of course, this was open game. See, because this is an illegal campaign finance contribution. That the very crux of this matter is because they're not protecting minors from pornography. And what they're saying is this is that end-to-end encryption argument, which is saying that because this exploitation is going on through end-to-end encryption, through private videos. And Facebook is required to, because it is posted on their platform, they're required to screen this material for pornography because it's the law. Okay, and the liberals are not even just the liberals. Hold on, mostly just the liberals. They're going nuts because they don't understand this. They think you're trying to take away their right to have encryption. Because last time on the last show, I was like, what are you talking about? This doesn't have anything to do with encryption. That's not how encryption works. I didn't quite understand that exact point. But the point is that there's a lot of exploitation that can be going on these social networks, and that this is an illegal campaign finance contribution. In this point, this is actually coming from the Russians. All right, they're funding Bernie Sanders here. They're like the Democrats have been just like going nuts with these Russia conspiracies, like with MSNBC, and as it turns out, the Russians are funding their people too. Like, oh, I guess then maybe the next if Joe Biden wins, then the next 4 years we're just going to be having Russiagate just all over with the Republicans in charge. Yeah, probably not going to happen. But yeah, this Section 230 thing's not good. I think this is good evidence of why the Section 230 protection should be stripped conditionally if they're editing content. Because if they are editing content, they're editing content because of the advertisers. Why are they editing content? Who are the people that are paying them to edit this content? They're foreign governments. They're multinational conglomerations paying them to edit the content. And it's completely illegal in the U.S. system. So big ups to Senator Lindsey Graham for bringing up this absolutely awesome bill. I think we need to strip these media companies of this protection if they're not actually using it to protect children. And I fully support your right to have encryption, but the thing is like encrypt, like we can just encrypt it anyways. You're like, what are you talking about? You just like send an encrypted packet over your encrypted thing, and then it just works. It's like really actually not that big of a deal. People are saying it's all about this encryption thing, but that's just not the way it works. It's not. It technologically, that's not how it works. You can still actually send those things, but then you have to exchange the keys personally. So you have to exchange them or over another encrypted protocol. That's just the way you have to operate in the dark net. I don't operate in the dark net. I'm just a computer engineer. I'm just telling you how the systems work. So what's this next article here? It says it's from Reuters. It says Trump vows major steps to aid U.S. economy amid coronavirus rise. President Donald Trump on Monday said he would take quote unquote major steps to grid the economy against the impact of the spreading coronavirus outbreak, and we'll discuss a payroll tax with congressional Republicans on Tuesday. Yeah, we're going to have supply shortages. I don't know if y'all have been paying attention, but they're sneaking up on us. Like the people on YouTube have been warning people, are probably stoking it, but whoever got that word on YouTube, have been watching those YouTubers, is going to be sitting up in their house with their emergency rations, just chilling out, loving life. And so we should definitely all start taking measures to prepare. You should start hoarding canned food. If you do have money for food, you should invest as much as you can in non-perishable goods. And every single time you go to the store, just buy a little bit more, a couple more things. You know, it's gonna as long as you can eat it over the next 2 or 3 years, and it stays good on the shelf. You know, you're not going to lose any money. This is just time for you to set a little bit of money aside to make sure that you don't run out of toilet paper, because it's coming. Maybe you should just buy a bidet. Not sure. Me personally, I would not mind one. Next article: oil prices rise it's from Reuters. Oil prices rise 4% after biggest one-day fall since 1991. Wow. Oil prices rose by more than $1 on Tuesday after a price war by top producers Saudi Arabia and Russia sparked the biggest daily rout since the 1991 Gulf War. But investors saw little chance of quick price recovery as the coronavirus cuts demand. I do believe they mean $1 per barrel. we got to call them out here on the sloppy journalism. They totally biffed this one. They forgot to put $1. It just rose by $1. We mean like total of $1. Just one person paid $1, huh? Right? Next article from Newsweek. 70% of Republicans say economic system is fair, while more than half of Democrats disagree, economic polls say. Being a Democrat or Republican is one of several factors that may predict in how people view the fairness of the U.S. economic system, according to a new poll. Much of this is probably social media driven because the view of the left is they're mad when they don't get free stuff. Okay, so like they a lot of it, so you got these personalities pushing socialism like Carlos Maza. Guy turns out to be, he says that he's not a rich kid. He's not part of the 1%. But then, he's registered to vote at some like mansion worth like $11 million. He's got like multiple houses. His parents pay his $3,000 a month rent. And he's all about socialism because he had a silver spoon in his mouth. He never had to work. He goes to all the fancy parties. He's LGBTQT, GT, 2CB, 5CHTP. And so that means that he's like in on all these like ultra lib parties. And they don't understand what it actually means to actually like have to build this stuff. They're like, what? I just get free stuff all the time from my rich parents. Like, you don't actually get free stuff. And so they have this culture where they're just outraged because they're like, oh, sexual objectification of women, this is bad because these evil men are paying these strippers. These evil men are paying for movies where these innocent young women are just taking off their clothes for money because they're the victims here, like because they voluntarily came here. And then it's the guy's fault that the woman went on her own accord and like called in the phone number on Craigslist to the porn advertisement here where it said, do you and your stepmother want to engage in some fake incest porn? They were the ones that actually called up and responded to the ad and said, yes, I have daddy issues. And so, but then they have a victim culture, right? So they're like, okay, so they're pissed off. They're like, these men are sexually objectifying the women because the hot chicks are using their boobs to get men into peacock so they could like attract the best mate by like putting themselves on display in a sexual manner. So all the guys look at them and then they get the best guy to come to them, right? But to them, they're the victim, right? But then the women, the other women, they're pissed off. They're not getting the free stuff. They're like, oh, this sexual objectification system of women, this is so horrible because I'm not getting free stuff. These other women are getting free stuff with their boobs. Okay. So let me get this straight. So the guys aren't really interested in you because you want to work all day because you want to be the boss at work, right? You want to have the man's job, and then the guys don't want to hook up with you. And then when the guys aren't paying attention to you because all of the other hot chicks are wearing spandex and some top without a bra where you can kind of see their nipples. And then the guys are the bad ones here in this situation. And why? It's because they're holding down the women. Because the women who didn't get the good fancy jobs don't have all of these luxuries that the people in the ivory tower have. They have to use like hard work and their body to get the money. They can't just use their skills that they got at college because they're like low income, right? Or maybe they're just like really kinky and they really like having everybody like think about them sexually. And so they're saying that it's the man's fault that they can't, that they're not, because they're like 20, like early 20s, right? They're saying it's the man's fault for holding them down because they're not the boss, because right after they got out of college, they didn't all of a sudden just get into management and then were promoted to CEO of the company immediately. And this is what it is. They're basically blaming their own downfalls in life on the system. And it's because they have all this rage bait in their face in social media all the time, pissing them off. And they're always pissed off about this, pissed off about that. And anytime anybody disagrees with them, they're like, "You're a misogynist. You hate women because you didn't agree with everything that I said." Wow. That shit's enough to give people PTSD, dude. In fact, these people probably do have PTSD. That's why they're doing it, right? I mean, you got to think about like these people, all these people on Twitter that got like pronouns in their bio: he, she, he/she, she/him, they/her. I don't know, like furry or something. It's like they have PTSD, and like they see something that like triggers them, and they have to sound off because they get likes, because every single time they sound off, they have like 10,000 other women with PTSD following them on Twitter, and they're like, yeah, those men wronged me. Yeah, that alpha male, he fucked me and then he left me for another woman. Yeah, that's the patriarchy's fault. These bitches be crazy, bro. You gotta call them out, dude. If you ever seen any of these crazy single moms really drunk trying to get somebody's dick, like, it's crazy. Like this one chick, dude, like she like beat me up, dude. It was like crazy. It was like she wanted my friend's dick so bad. All right. And she was kind of drunk, and she was a single mom, and she was just going crazy. She gave me a ride over to his house, and she was just going off about her ex and about what he did with the baby, like to the kid or something, like going off just like some crazy shit, and then later on the night, she just like socks me and shit. These are the people, though. These are the people who are saying that the economy's not doing that good. And it's because they're blaming other people on their own failures. It's like, come on, man. We live in the United States of America in 2020, where resources are so aplenty, we have to ship our used stuff to third world countries to dispose of it. Right? We can't turn those shirts into insulation here. We got to send them to third world countries first, because we can't deal with our own waste. There's so many opportunities around here. There's just no reason why anybody should complain about the situation that's going on, because anybody can come up. Even if you're doing it at the bottom, there's so many people at the bottom. Like the rich people are all making hella cash up off these people on the bottom. And it's because they can organize. And so if you're not doing this, you don't have any sort of right to complain about the economy. It's doing perfectly good for people. We're running over a fiscal cliff, but we've been doing that for a long time, and it is the Democrats' fault for their huge, massive spendings that they're doing on these social entitlement programs. And that's the problem is, once you get hooked on socialism, dude, it's so hard to get off. Like if you're a man and you start getting on food stamps, dude, the women do not want to date you, dude. Like, you might as well just chop your dick off, dude, because you're never going to get laid again, because you can't afford a woman to buy a woman dinner because they don't take food stamps at the restaurant, bro. Like that, you can't raise a family on socialism. So this is what these people are saying. They're saying, I am not getting enough free stuff. And really what they need to do is go and learn how to fish, dude. Go stop asking other people to give you fish. Go get the fish, dude. There's so many stupid people that have made millions of dollars. I don't even want to hear it. I don't even people coming up from the streets and coming up in like becoming millionaires. Like, it happens. You just have to be smart. What's this next article say? Billions of locusts swarm in East Africa. From this article's from the BBC News. East Africa could be on the verge of a food crisis if swarms of locusts are not controlled. Woo, man, damn, look at all those things. Woo. I would not want those things in my backyard. What do you even do? I don't know. I'd try to turn them into food. I'd get like a big net, and I'd be like trying to make some like cricket flour or something, dude. I've never had cricket flour, but that stuff sounds like really, really good, because they make it, it's like flour made out of crickets, and it's got protein in it, so if you're like munch down on a cookie, dude, you should really munch down on a cricket flour cookie. In fact, a buddy of mine, I don't know, he's not a buddy. He's like some dude I knew back in the day makes cricket flour here in Eugene. So buy cricket flour from Eugene, Oregon, because it's good stuff. Next article from CBS News. 22-year-old Guatemalan asylum seeker dies in ICE custody. Maria Celeste Ochoa Yacdevel Ramirez died after 6 months in ICE custody. That's a long time. The 22-year-old asylum seeker from Guatemala, detained by U.S. immigrants authorities, died at a Texas hospital Sunday, becoming the 8th immigrant to die in the custody of immigration custody and enforcement officials in fiscal year 2020. I'm trying to think, like, is that like a lot? Because like people die. Like I've been at music festivals where people die. You know, like I went to Burning Man. And I saw this one dude die of a GHB overdose. Like I was tripping on mushrooms, right? I'm like having a blast. I'm like, I found a possessed doll at Burning Man called Humphrey, and I was freaking everybody out with it, dude. It was so creepy. I had the spacesuit costume on. I'm just like, yeah, look at my possessed doll. I got this crazy doll named Humphrey, dude. And this dude just comes out of this dome. He's like, passes over and dies. It was nuts. People do that shit, man. Continuing in the article, Maria Celeste Ochoa Ramirez, whose death was first reported by BuzzFeed News, has been hospitalized since February 18th. According to the officials, Ochoa Ramirez died of autoimmune hepatitis complicated by septic shock and acute liver failure at a hospital in Fort Worth. Oh, that's a tragedy. It sounds like it could have been prevented, but there's a simple fact of immigrants aren't entitled to health care. Like, we're not even entitled to health care. Like, it's insanely expensive to provide health care. I mean, I know it sounds cold. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But the fact is 25% of babies born in the United States right now are from foreigners. Like it used to be 5%. Yeah, it used to be 5 to 7%. And it's quadrupled recently. So at a certain point, you know, you kind of have to say the families who live here also too have a right to have their family grow, and not just families from outside of the country. Love the people, great people. I want to come to your country, be a part of your family. But you probably wouldn't take me. Your country probably wouldn't actually give me a green card, or whatever they call them there. You know. Next article from Newsweek. Fox News host criticizes another host live on air for implying Biden has dementia. So reckless and irresponsible. Excuse me? Is Biden weak? Dude, Creepy Joe. All right, so like Creepy Joe, the one that like creeps up behind women and like gives them awkward hugs and like does some like really, really creepy, borderline illegal sexual harassment stuff, like that dude. Like, come on, man. Like, he's so old, dude. Like, the dementia jokes are just, they're legit right now, man. Anybody who is actually seeing dinosaurs with their own two eyes, the dementia jokes are, you got to expect those. I mean, the person is not going to be offended if you crack dementia jokes, because chances are everybody in their family is actually too also cracking dementia jokes about them, similar to how I crack dementia jokes about my own mother, because, well, she's only 63, but you know, it's coming. She's been drinking so much Diet Pepsi, dude. It's coming. So the article says Fox News host Kennedy Montgomery suggests that former Vice President Joe Biden's campaign speeches have been shorted by 15 minutes due to cognitive decline, prompting the ire of her network colleague Jessica Tarlov. So let me get this straight. So suggested that the speeches had been cut short by 15 minutes due to cognitive decline. I'm gonna have to call her on that one. Like it he's campaigning. Like, the guy would be exhausted at this point in time. If I was actually campaigning that much, I'd probably actually be exhausted on X number of nights and space out a bunch of stuff, and it would be on the newspaper as gaffes. It's kind of the way the world works, but hey, whatever brings their rating up. Next article from the BBC News. Coronavirus, U.S. Republicans self-quarantined amid outbreak. 5 politicians, including Senator Ted Cruz, isolate themselves as President Trump says he's healthy. The members of Congress, who includes Cruz, self-isolated after they shook hands with an infected individual at a conference. President Donald Trump, who was also at the event last month, insisted he's in good health and has not taken a test. Yeah, we're going to start seeing, like, important members of Congress drop dead, because you got to think, like, X% of Congress was like living when the dinosaurs were walking the earth. So they're going to be the first ones going out. And luckily, it seems like white people are more immune. I mean, than other people. Like, there's reports in Iran of 8 to 9% death rates in Iran from coronavirus. Wow. That one's bad. Like, there's this, like, false information going around that, like, white people killed the Native Americans, that they took their land. This is absolutely nonsense. Like, hold on. First off, I'm a Native American because I was born in America, and I'm not an invasive species here, buddy. Like, everybody says I'm a Native Oregonian. I'm in the Willamette tribe. The Willamette tribe. It's a joke here. But the American Indians, or the Amerindians, is a short way of saying it. They actually, 75 to 90% of them died before they ever met a white man of smallpox. And it had nothing to do with the white people. It had everything to do with they were immune. They didn't have any sort of resistance to smallpox, and they died. And so this is what is going on. This is why coronavirus is such a scary virus, is that we don't have an immunity to it. It's a virus that used to not be a problem that is now all of a sudden a very bad problem. It can stay on surfaces for weeks. It takes 5 days to incubate and show symptoms, but that can be delayed for weeks. You wouldn't even notice the symptoms. So, yeah, the coronavirus is definitely a scary one. I fear for my mother, who is 63, going to be 64 here, coming up here pretty soon. And everybody who does have parents, my mother's age, should definitely also to preemptively self-quarantine yourself. Just stop going out as much as you can for, like, until they get a vaccine for it, because at some point in time we're going to have a vaccine, but the problem is that it's going to do so much damage in between then that possibly we might not be able to actually dispose of the bodies fast enough, because you can only cremate so many people per week in a crematorium. Yes. We're going to get to this in another news story here in a little bit. Next article from New York Post. Iowa girl miraculously regains vision after being blinded by the flu. A 4-year-old girl in Iowa was blinded and nearly died after catching the flu, regained her eyesight, family members announced last week. Jade DeLuca, who didn't receive a flu shot this season, got sick late last year and eventually suffered a seizure and became unconscious. She was diagnosed on Christmas Day with acute necrotizing... Ooh. Sorry. Where was that? Necrotizing ecophylae and encephalopathy. I'm sorry, murdered that one. A known complication of viral infections like the flu, which caused her brain to swell. And so that necrotizing, that one's a bad one. That's like a necrotizing flesh is like flesh-eating bacteria, or if necrotizing bacteria is flesh-eating. So this one, obviously, it's like, I think what that means is that the cells start to attack her own body, because they're the way that your immune system works is that there's these flagger. I know a lot about this stuff. The cells have these chemical markers, and they're like they're actually chemically related to THC. They're endocrine. Right? No, that's the cannabinoids. It's looks just like the same shape as a cannabinoid, and they're like chemical flags that go on the outside of your cell that mark the cell to get attacked by your white blood cells. And so when someone has an immune deficiency disease that like lupus, then the person's white blood cells are attacking their own body. And so that's what the words here, that's what the etymology of the words implies, is what's going on here is that your body's attacking itself because it's flagging the wrong cells. The cells are getting flagged, they're like good cells getting false flagged. I'm so happy that this girl regained her vision. The flu is a very, very, very deadly disease for people who have compromised immune systems, like little ones and old people. But don't buy the rhetoric that coronavirus is not as deadly as the flu. It is currently not as big of a problem, but it is death coming, could possibly be knocking on your door, might be coming for you or your children. So do yourself a favor and start stocking up on electronics and movies and stuff for you to hibernate here for a little while. Next article from Newsweek: Coachella Music Festival has been postponed. A lot of music festivals are getting postponed, right? They just canceled South by Southwest. A lot of musicians depend on this, like professional musicians. A lot of them are like just barely making it through, and like when you cancel on that, that's like a big hit for them. But you know what? It's better than dying or killing somebody else from bringing the flu or the coronavirus around with you. Next article from Newsweek: Bernie Sanders is beating Joe Biden in the race for donations from Hollywood elites. Because Hollywood elites love communism, because it is oh so popular to express do virtue signaling on Twitter so that you could express to people who might want to follow you what camp you're in, whether or not you're enemies with the misogynist and you're in the feminist camp and you have a pronoun that says that you support trans people chopping their own dicks off. All right, so my son got kidnapped by a radical liberal, like his grandmother, when he was like for a long time. It was like very painful for me. And she held him in a hoarder house that looked like the inside of a trash can. And she had her kid dressed up like a boy. And so like my son, it was like having a trans sibling in the house was like normal to him. And last week I explained to him what happens when you have a sex change, that you chop your dick off. And this is what my son did. Really? They were going to chop his dick off? Woo! Yeah, so these liberal Hollywood elites, you got to watch out for these ivory tower liberals, man. They're a rotten bunch of individuals. They're sitting here in the ivory towers in Silicon Valley. And outside of their ivory towers, you have armies full of drug addicts fueled with methamphetamines and fentanyl and heroin from the Mexican cartels and the South American cartels. And they are shitting right where they're doing heroin, leaving their needles. And so outside of the ivory tower, you can get cholera, hepatitis C, HIV, and 3 other STDs just walking outside of the front door and stepping on a pile of human feces with a needle in it. Woo! Yeah, this is the Golden State. They're going to have to rename it to the Golden Showers State. And these people, they're on one with this communism stuff. It's like they themselves have lots of money, and they probably didn't actually earn the money. They didn't actually do what most people, like as much work as most people would do to earn it. So to them, a lot of them grew up with having rich parents, and then they got into the Hollywood circle, and then they now live this incredible life of privilege, and so they don't actually have to pay for these things. They don't know anything about like funding the roads or anything. They all they know is that the homeless people shit out there and do heroin. And so to them it's virtue. They're trying to get people to follow them. They're trying to express that they are the feminist that if you want to do a woke movie and you're going to if you're going to like take a famous male character such as Harry Potter and then turn it into a black girl, or some like Mark Twain, take one of his classics and then replace the white people now with Muslims, so that you can rebrand the story and change the cover and then sell the same thing for more money now because it's got woke value. And so these are the people that end up voting for Bernie Sanders. And it's because to them, open borders sounds great because they have friends who are black. So open borders is good because they don't want to sound racist, and because the Latinos are mowing their lawn. They don't want their Mexican landscaper to think that they're racist and they don't like Latinos. So they support open borders. That's the logic that goes through their head. They think that you're racist if you don't want to support open borders. So you have to ask these people, like, okay, 25% of babies born are being born from immigrants. A lot of these people are illegal immigrants. They're on socialism. They're in the sanctuary state there, California, where almost 50% of the babies being born are born from immigrants. Look, true story. Look it up. Don't believe me. Let's go look it up. I can show you here, right here. We can see that in California, that in 2018, 47.1% of children born were from foreigners. I'd be totally down if I had a hot Latina girlfriend with big tits. But the fact is they live in their own community. And like, we don't even like Oregon. Let's look at Oregon, where I live, which is right next to there. It's a sanctuary state, not by state law, but by county and city ordinances. And so 24.8% of the kids born here are from Latinos. And I've had friends with one of them. I love immigrants and people of color, but I've only really had one friend from their community. That's not very many. If they're a quarter of the population, you've only had one friend from their community, it means that their community is isolated. They're not integrating with our community. It's not the same community. And so these people, that's what these people support. They support your country turning into Mexico. And some of these Bernie Sanders supporters are absolute nuts jobs, dude. They're psychos. They will beat the crap out of you. They will come to your restaurant and like break windows. They support putting Republicans in gulags. These people are nut jobs. They've got these people on videos talking about wanting to put Republicans in gulags. So if you elect Bernie Sanders, that is a vote for gulags. Next story here from Newsweek: Harry Haynes' cause of death revealed as accidental fentanyl intoxication. The American Horror Story actor died in January at the age of 27. He's the son of actress Jane Balder. Yeah, that heroin, that fentanyl stuff's bad, dude. Like a lot of it's been coming in through the mail, through China, but also, too, a lot of it's also coming up from the Central and South American cartels, who are bringing up a lot of methamphetamines and who are fueling a massive drug problem with the homeless people. And, you have to look at the numbers of the homeless people. And if you actually look at like how many homeless people there are, how many homeless people are there? And it says on any given night, there's about 5.5 million homeless people. They're not all homeless at one given time. There's huge camps in California. Then we have to go look here back at California. There are so there's only 500,000 people in California, or homeless people in the entire country on any given night. But almost 50% of the people being born and living in houses are from foreigners. I mean, the kids are American citizens. Let's give them respect. They are our allies. They're not our enemies. They are part of the American family. Not bad people. But the fact is that there are over 10 million illegal immigrants. So how many illegal immigrants are there? There's about 10.5 million unauthorized immigrants in the U.S. Most of these are from Mexico. Actually, Mexicans made up less than half of the unauthorized U.S. immigrants. So 1 out of 20 Mexicans is actually in the U.S. illegally. When you do the numbers, there's 150 million people in Mexico. There's about 5 million people in illegal immigrants from Mexico here in the United States. And so when you do the math, that's 1 in 20 of their people are here in the United States breaking our laws because they don't care about the border. 4 in 5 of these border hoppers are apprehended, or are not apprehended. Only 1 in 5 are actually caught by border and customs officials. And so the problem is we have all of these illegal immigrants. For every single homeless person on the street, there are literally 20 illegal immigrants for every single homeless person on the streets, dude. Next time you walk down the streets of San Francisco and you see a pile of human shit next to a bunch of heroin needles, and then you got some dude nodding out on the sidewalk, and you might think you need to call the police, just know that there are 20 illegal immigrants for every homeless person, and 10 of them are Mexicans. Wow. But you know what? Mexicans aren't all that bad. You got to take the good with the bad. Mexicans, as it turned out, are actually racist. They're actually white supremacists. As it turns out, Mexicans are actually white supremacists. So they're actually conquistadors. They're descendants of Spanish invaders they're mixed with Amerindians. And so at the top of the social pyramid in Mexico are the conquistador, the white people. And all of the other people want to be as white as they can. They don't like black people. They don't like American Indians. And then people are trying to say that we're racist for trying to kick them out when 25% of the people born here are being born from immigrants and 12.5% of them are being born from Mexicans. Like, come on, dude. 12.5% of America. Okay, let's look at the numbers. What is America? 310 million, right? 310 million, dude. Times 0.2, 12.5. So there's like, 40 million babies percent, 40 million being born from like Mexicans, right? What's the population of Mexico is 150. So approximately 25% of the size of the country of Mexico is being born in America by Mexicans, dude. That is freaky as fuck, dude. That's crazy. Anybody who would support immigration, illegal immigration, is crazy. Open borders is so lunatic. These people supporting these commies like Bernie Sanders are actually nut jobs, dude. They're just doing it because they don't want to seem racist, dude. They think Mexican chicks are hot, which they are, and Latina chicks, definitely, South American chicks, definitely hot. And the truth is, they just want people to like them on social media, and they get pissed off when you don't think the same way they do because the left is authoritarian and they want to control you because they value fairness more than they value group loyalty. And this is why liberals will turn on you very quickly the moment they think that you're racist, sexist, Islamophobic. If you are a patriarchy, they will turn on you. But what am I doing? What am I talking about? These people are bringing in heroin. Like when you got open borders, dude, you're bringing in dirty ass methamphetamines and fentanyl with all these people. Well, hold on. Most of the stuff comes in through shipping ports, but they do rely on traffic coming back and forth between the country to ship it in. Okay, so we have to minimize the traffic by building a big wall so that the people who actually live here in this country, they can have their family grow instead of having their family shrink, and immigrant families grow and have a bunch of people dying from fentanyl in the streets, knotted out next to a pile of shit and a needle with HIV and hepatitis C in it. Next article from Newsweek. Minnesota mother accused of throwing an 11-year-old boy, her son, off of a 4th floor balcony. Wow. Woo! Talk about a crazy bitch. Damn. The 11-year-old boy in Minneapolis, Minnesota is recovering after he was allegedly thrown off a 4th floor balcony by his crazy as fuck bitch mother. The St. Paul Police Department said they were called at around 8:40 a.m. to an apartment building on the 700 block of Hampton Avenue in St. Paul following reports of an attempted suicide on Monday, March 9th. So she was crazy bitch, threatening to kill herself, and then she ended up throwing her kid off the balcony. This story is like creepy familiar, dude. Like, seriously, man, I've seen chicks. Like, I was at this one party once, dude, and this one chick was like drunk as fuck, dude, and this dude didn't want to fuck her, dude. She pulls out a fucking knife, dude, and she's like running around like trying to stab people, dude. Everybody's freaked out. This shit goes on for like an hour, right? Because this chick's so drunk, nobody can call the cops because she's like going around telling she's gonna shank everybody. And they say, if you say anything critical about these women, you are a misogynist. Yo, bro, you crazy if you're not saying anything. Next article from Fox News. Giant asteroid apocalypse 13,000 years ago was witnessed by ancient humans, experts believe. The asteroid that hit Earth nearly 13,000 years ago and ended the Pleistocene era likely wiped out an ancient civilization in what was modern-day Syria, according to newly discovered evidence. And so according to the liberal narrative, because the liberals think that the white people stole the land from the Native Americans, even though the Native Americans got smallpox from a disease that arguably had nothing to do with, the white people. No, the white people brought it, but the fact that they had a compromised immune system because they were like tribes running around out in the woods following animals with animal skins on, nomads, like they think, oh, we stole their land, right? But if you go off the same logic, then these people who got wiped out by this asteroid attack, the entire world belonged to them and we stole the land from them. It's a slippery slope down into absurdity. This is why we criticize the left regularly here on Real Simple News, because there is just so much stuff. You just keeps coming. Next article from New York Post: Chinese restaurant chain in California kicking out diners with fever amid coronavirus crisis. I'm not sure if I agree with that. It does seem as though authoritarian countries are better at dealing with this. America is a little bit lackadaisical. I'm not sure. I couldn't really tell you what approach we're supposed to be using, because in China, they're using these emergency situations to test all of their citizen control technology, the dystopian 1984 technology they're using to grade people with social credits. And that's the scary thing about what's going on. Europe, too, is also crazy authoritarian. Whenever in a prior show on a tangent about why Europe is crazy, it's because they banned hate speech. They went down a slippery slope where one day they banned hate speech for one reason, to be nice to people, and then the population changed, and now all of a sudden the immigrants from Africa and the Middle East showed up, and they're Sharia law Muslims, and then next thing you know, the next batch of people isn't the white Americans or the Europeans, they are the Muslims, and you already banned hate speech, and now you can't criticize them because that's Islamophobic, that's hate speech. They'll take your house away, they'll lock you up, you won't be able to have a job in a government setting, or possibly even in your own society, because you'll be labeled as a bigot and toxic, and nobody will be allowed to hang out with you. And so Europe is going nuts about this, and they're just they're going way too far, and it's because they're authoritarian. It's because they have this culture where you're not allowed to question people, because you're not allowed to hate speech has been banned. So you can't question the motivations of these people, because if you questioned it, you would be racist against people from Wuhan, as if people from Wuhan are a race now. So I'm a little bit weary because it's, but I don't know where I'm going to sit on the fence on this one, because there's two sides to think about it. There's one side where it says, okay, well, authoritarian governments always say, give me your freedom of speech. It's in your best interest. Trust me. Wink, wink. Right? We've heard that one over and over again. I'm not buying it. Not a sucker. But we don't have immunity to this virus. We need to delay it as much as we can, because we can get a vaccine for it in the amount of time that we delay. So, do we need the government to tell us to do this? Can we do it ourselves? It seems to me there's such an economic burden here. There's we got supply chain disruptions. People are poor. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford to take a month off. Who's going to pay that month of rent? They're going to be on the streets. What are you going to do? I'm personally going to side with the freedom aspect of it, because people have rent to pay. And if they're on the street, they might die of pneumonia. They might die of something else. They might die of a heroin overdose because they lost their job and they ended up on the streets. Because you got to understand, men, when they lose their job, it's not like women losing a job. Women bounce back from losing a job. A lot of times men don't bounce back from losing a job. They end up underneath a bridge. They end up killing themselves. They get complex post-traumatic stress syndrome from having to be trapped in the situation. So I'm going to side with the self-quarantine system. I believe that people, as they're freaked out enough, they're willing to self-quarantine. Ooh, we are 1 hour and 5 minutes. Oh, but I got some good stuff, so I'm going to keep going. Next story here from Fox News Science. Ostrich eggshell beads were swapped like Stone Age Facebook and Twitter likes 30,000 years ago. Mankind's ancestors may have exchanged ostrich shells beads with one another, the Stone Age version of Facebook and Twitter likes, according to a new study. It's actually fascinating, interesting. The research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Scientists looked into the pieces of jewelry that were discovered at the Lesotho, a county encircled by South Africa, and found that they were likely exchanged more than 30,000 years ago. Quote, ostrich shell beads and the jewelry made from them basically acted like Stone Age versions of Facebook and Twitter likes, simultaneously affirming connections to exchange partners while alerting others to the status of those relationships, said a study's author Ryan Stewart in a statement. Well, that's actually kind of funny. I make AI productivity software. I'm actually using blockchain technology to actually do something similar, actually, with positive psychological rewards to hit your metrics, like your benchmarks and your milestones. It's open source technology. If you want to check that out, that's the A Startup, github.com/A-startup. You can sign up as a contributor by forking and starring the GitHub repos. You're going to have to look it up on YouTube how to do that. What's this next article? It's from Newsweek. It says hackers use fake HIV test results as lure to infect computers and steal data. If successfully downloaders, attackers can run programs, access victims' data, including sensitive personal and financial information. Proof point researchers warned. This is sloppy. Okay, I peeked into the article earlier because I was thinking about making this one the thumbnail. But it's a phishing scam. You wouldn't know it from looking at, when you look at this, it doesn't reek phishing scam. So I'm going to have to call them out on the sloppy journalism there. Maybe they're trying to bait you to click on the article. I don't know. It says the email-based attacks contain an open-source remote access tool that has previously been tied to state-sponsored groups like China and Russia. Sharad DeGruppo, Senior Director of Threat Research and Detection Team at Cyber Outfit Proofpoint, explained, and that's a mouthful right there, explained in a blog post today. So let me explain to you how this works. My mother is still susceptible to this. And so this is also how the Democratic National Committee was also hacked to, I think it was 2 years ago, whenever one of their operatives clicked on a phishing email that was actually marked as this could be a phishing email, but then they clicked on it anyways like an idiot. So these people will send you emails that say like you owe a debt. Or, everybody's heard of the Nigerian prince scam, right? But this one, they said you had HIV positive test results and that you had to click on the stuff and install the stuff to do whatever the hell they said. Come on, man. Never, ever. That violates the HIPAA laws, dude. Come on, man. They can't send your personal medical information over email. Dude, people are suckers, man. God damn, dude. I wish I was a black hat sometimes, dude. Just because people just deserve it, dude. Because my mother has sent me phishing emails over and over and over again for years. She's like, is this real? It's like, Mary, it's from a Hotmail account. It's not from Amazon. She doesn't understand. You got to look at the email. Look at the email. Was it actually from the official website, was it from Amazon.com or eBay.com, or was it from your doctor? You have to look at these. If it wasn't, it was a phishing email. Don't even bother with delete it. That's what you got to do. And you probably should reset your computer. You should reinstall Windows. I find that it's pretty, whenever I have a new computer, fresh install of Windows, it's nice and great, dude. There's like nothing in my way. And if you're not backing up all your stuff right, you're going to lose your data. Trust me, your drive's going to go out at one point in time. You're not going to like it. You're not going to be happy. What's this next article? I'm going to hit 2 more, and then I'm going to go. Next article from Newsweek. Days on Earth when dinosaurs lived were half an hour shorter than they are now, ancient fossils reveal. Scientists calculated the number of days in a year 70 million years ago by counting rings on an ancient mollusk fossil. Well, that is absolutely fascinating. So if it was half an hour shorter, like, is it going to be like continuing to go that way? So you got, well, yeah, man. We're mortal, dude. At some point in time, we're going to get whacked with an asteroid. It's going to kill everybody, dude. Hopefully I'm not alive. Hopefully I can be a grandpa by the time I die. Next article from Newsweek, where I'm going to hit 2 more. No, I'm going to hit 3 more. Okay, so here's the coronavirus map of death tolls. It's hit 4,000. And so we can see here from this image, been almost 11,000 cases of COVID-19, which if you're interested, that means coronavirus disease, year 19 as in 2019. So we are pretty low. China got hit hard. They're getting hit hard. Iran's hit hard. All the rest of these people, not doing too bad. Woo. Boy, let's just hope my family makes it through. Don't need any deaths right here. Next article from New York Post. Crazed toilet paper shop stampede in Australia. You should buy toilet paper or you're next. Do you want to fight with Kelly at the Costco for the last thing of toilet paper and get into a wrestling match with Frank over the last can of beans? You should probably stock up because you know you have so much room in your house for all of that toilet paper and canned food, right? So you should probably start cleaning. Get rid of all your stuff. Best thing you can do. Last article here, and then I'm signing out. For $250, you can take a legal psychedelic trip thanks to ketamine therapy. The company Mind Bloom just opened a new center in New York to treat people with depression and anxiety with ketamine. That is a horse tranquilizer. If you're not familiar with it, they've shown that very, 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 very small doses, we're talking like 0.05 of a milligram or 5 milligrams or less, can actually cure depression for up to 3 days. Significantly better than any known antidepressant. And so it looks like they're doing ketamine therapy. That's just great. There's lots of... I definitely believe that you can have spiritual experiences on ketamine. I've had some myself. I'm not a drug user anymore, but back in the day when I was young, I've had out-of-body spiritual experiences with ketamine. And I have not really had any bad effects to it. Did have some friends who got addicted to it. This one chick actually caused her blood to get thick. She had to go to the hospital, but she ended up turning out to be like a heroin addict prostitute. So that's kind of no sane, rational person would ever do that many drugs. But in large part, it's supposed to be very safe. So that's very interesting. Coming up next, we're going to have psychedelic therapy using mushrooms and LSD. That is what's going to happen next. So with that, I'm going to sign out. You've been watching Real Simple News with your host, Cale McCullough, Captain Kabuki of the Kabuki Starship. And until next time, sayonara, aloha, farewell, and Godspeed in your journey.